But speaking of ancient apes,
Yes.
so first movie review, Godzilla X Kong, which
Yes.
I can't think of the last time I saw a sequel that was so clearly driven by the desire to sell more toys.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Star Wars prequels, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Although the Star Wars prequels had much more of a story to tell.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we decided to dive into this. Now, full disclosure for me, I've only seen the first movie, the one with Bryan Cranston. Um, and we were talking before the show. I've only seen like the first 20 minutes of Godzilla versus Kong, and I stopped watching after the part when the first fight between Godzilla and Kong, when they're basically ripped off Evangelion, where they're
Right.
hopping on the ships.
Yeah, and I thought for sure that okay, so the movies in this series of MonsterVerse films have been fairly disconnected from each other.
Mm,
Like there's some world building that's shared, but once monsters live in the Hollow Earth, there are these giant creatures called Titans, which is their English translation of kaiju, I guess, which actually works pretty well.
yeah. Mm.
And that's really about all you have to know. Uh, of course, I decided to bring Daniel along for the most direct sequel out of all of them,
Yeah.
because I mean the previous one had tie-ins to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which had introduced King Ghidorah because they had Mecha Godzilla be made up of pieces of him, as I recall.
Okay.
But you could completely skip that movie. But no, I had to bring Daniel along for the one with the returning human characters.
Yeah. Well, I got by okay.
Yes, I'm just saying you can't ever assume anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'd say that with this movie, there are three plot lines.
Hmm.
There's the largely uninteresting human plot line.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the largely forgotten Godzilla plot. I don't even want to call it a plot line. The the
Godzilla does
Godzilla
stuff.
series of circumstances,
Yeah. Yeah. He just does stuff. Yeah.
and then King Kong actually has the story,
Hmm. Yeah. This is Kong's movie. Yeah.
which is really funny considering that Godzilla gets top billing.
Yeah.
I remember someone pointing out that back in the 50s, when was it no, back in the 60s when they made the uh, King Kong versus Godzilla movie, King Kong was the bigger name, and he was lending shine to Godzilla by being in his movie. And now, boy, the positions have reversed.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the uninteresting human plot, because I guess that's technically the main storyline. Technically,
Yeah. Technically. Yeah. Yeah.
so in the previous movie, we had established. By the way, I actually had a hard time finding a good poster for this movie. Um, this is the one I had considered using. That I found somebody that they must have just made an MS Paint. It does actually kind of work.
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. Then not too far off from the main baddie.
Yeah, but in the previous movie, uh, King Kong had some sort of psychic connection with a little mute psychic girl from a tribe that had been wiped out.
Yeah.
I
They
forget
lived on
why the
they
tribe
lived
was
on
wiped out.
Skull Island. I think was
Oh,
was
that's right. Then Skull Island sank like it always does.
yeah.
Hey,
Hey, Creator's Outlet. Good to see you, man.
hey, hey. So we cut to the present where the little psychic girl is going to Monarch Academy. You might go, what the hell is a monarch? And the answer is what they really, really hope is a compelling through line for all these MonsterVerse movies, because it's basically their equivalent of Shield.
Yeah. There's Apple TV Plus show called Monarch, which I
Which
think is tied in with this universe. I can't.
it
I'm not.
is. It
It is
is.
okay. Yeah.
Like apparently there's scenes in there that are just the Golden Gate Bridge attack scene from the first Godzilla movie in this series from a different POV.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's with Kurt Russell and his son. They're playing the same character in different time periods. That's all I know about it.
So you've got Kaylee Hoddle as the little psychic girl who is mute, so she mostly speaks in sign language and occasionally telepathically communicates with people, but you never actually hear her voice.
Right.
Uh, Her mother figure with this monarch group is Rebecca Hall, played by Eileen Andrews.
Uh, Swap it.
Oh, okay, you're right. I sorry, Eileen Andrews playing Rebecca Hall.
Yes.
I hate how IMDb lays this out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right.
Like just say playing
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Eileen Andrews played by Rebecca Hall. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why they don't do it that way.
anyway.
Yeah.
And the thing about the uninteresting human plot of this movie is that a lot of it has left my mind since Sunday night.
Well, the uh, Eileen Andrews is she's kind of struggling with uh, 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 Jaya, was that her name?
Gia, yeah.
Gia, and because yeah, Gia's been having her visions, and she doesn't feel
That's
like
right.
she doesn't feel like she fits in at the with the other kids because she grew up on an island with and so she's trying. There's a little bit of of family drama there, and then of course Godzilla is going around, you know, killing titans, and then he decides to make the Roman Colosseum his home.
Which is kind of cute to just see him curl up in the big Coliseum like a
Yeah,
cat in bed.
yeah. It would have been funnier if he like walked around in a circle and then
Oh
lay
yeah,
down.
yeah. So we got that action scene, and then we have the real story, which is King Kong.
Mhm.
And what I'll say is that this is actually masterclass might be a little bit going too far with it, but it's a very excellent example of what you can do with nonverbal storytelling.
Mhm.
Because you basically always know what King Kong is feeling. And kudos to whoever did the special effects for this one, because the motion capture, the facial expressions on the apes, it all just works so well.
Yeah, yeah. You understand what's going on in the scene. What the yeah, Kong's motivations, even though he doesn't say a word. It's like, oh, okay, I get what he's doing here, even though you don't have any dialogue going on. Yeah, that's
Right. Like, so rather than jump back and forth like the movie did, uh, basically King Kong intercepts the human plot because he has a big opening set piece where he's chased by a bunch of giant tusked creatures that look suspiciously like the monsters from the old horror movie The Killer Shrews,
mm,
which that would be a heck of a reference if that was intentional.
yes.
Which that movie they famously did not have a lot of money, and the whole idea was that they had giant shrews, so they just put these bad shrew costumes on dogs.
Okay.
And these kind of looked like that, but
Yeah.
you find out that King Kong has a toothache.
Hmm.
And so he ends up back on the surface world, even though in the last movie, he and Godzilla had kind of an unspoken agreement. Kong, you stay underground. The surface is mine.
Yep.
So the humans were rather nervous about Godzilla figuring out he was there.
Yeah, but so they have to call in basically call in a vet who's this. It's his name's Trapper, and he's played by Dan Stevens, who we saw a couple of weeks ago in Euro Vision song contest. He was
Oh, he
the
was the Russian guy.
Yeah, he was a Russian guy who was the sort of romantic rival of Will Ferrell. Uh,
Look, there are no gay people in Russia. He told us so himself.
that's
He's
right. That's
definitely
right.
not projecting
Yeah,
anything
yeah, yeah.
or repressing anything.
Repressing it. Yeah. uh, but yeah, so he's kind of this like eccentric hippie kind of guy, and then but he has like a flying uh flying like apparatus thing where he's able to pull Kong's tooth and replace it with like a titanium one. And so they're like, okay, they got to figure out how to get him back have him go back down to Hollow Earth. But then they lose contact with their facility in Hollow Earth, so
Right,
they have
their
to go down
research
and
group down there.
their research group. So they have to go down and find out what happened to him. And that's what sort of sets the plot off. And then with the girl having the visions, and because they're picking up these spikes in energy, and they're tied to her visions, and so the girl goes along with them down into Hollow Earth, and they bring along what was the guy's name? Bernie.
Bernie Hayes,
Bernie Hayes, yeah. Uh,
basically kaiju Alex Jones.
yeah, yeah. And and the actor was he played Lemon in Bullet Train.
Okay, I thought he looked familiar.
Yeah,
He's lost some weight.
yeah, he has. Yeah, yeah, he looks good. But yeah, so they bring him along, and of course, you can't have a situation like this and not have things go wrong, which of course
Right.
things go wrong.
Now, it's strange is that at this point you would assume that King Kong would hook up with the humans and they would travel together as they tried to uncover this mystery. This is not what happens.
No.
So the humans go off and have uninteresting adventures in the jungle. Favorite moment was when Trapper, the vet, lets a giant mosquito suck his blood on the theory that, oh well, it needs it more than I do, so it can lay its eggs. To which
Yeah,
my thought is, you're a vet. You know just how many diseases could be spread by mosquito bites, right?
yeah, yeah. There's this thing called malaria, and
I think
yeah,
dengue fever and
yeah, yellow fever. Yeah.
yeah.
Eeh.
Hey, not only that, you're in an alien ecosystem, so stop it. Get some help,
Yeah.
or else you'll be joining the circle of life sooner than you expected.
Yes.
So, so yeah, they basically bumble around until they find another group of Gia's tribesmen who are living in the ruins of some sort of ancient, I guess, Lumerian or not Lumerian. No, they said it was older than the Lemurians, who are
Mm,
like a favorite fake ancient civilization.
yeah.
Basically, so before they had the theory of continental drift, the one theory that they had to answer some questions about why creatures were where they were, and there were lemurs in Madagascar, and then there were similar creatures in Southeast Asia. But it's like, okay, how did they get there?
Mm,
So before continental drift, there was lots of theories of lost land masses, and the hypothetical one that would have connected those 2 points of the map was called Lemuria, after the lemurs.
ah. Huh.
Lemuria is a common thing in 19th century occultism. Like you'd have people like Madame Blavatsky who would talk about how, oh yes, we inherited everything from the ancient Lemurians and
Mm,
whatnot.
okay.
It's
Huh.
basically a bunch of bunk. Uh,
Yeah.
but getting back to the interesting plot, uh,
Yes.
so King Kong ends up in a fight with three other giant apes and in a little ape who he befriends the little ape, but the he kills off two of the big giant apes, and another one gets away to tell his master about Kong, basically.
Yeah, and yeah, and Kong has the little ape show him where the other apes are, and you had a scene where it very obvious that the little ape was luring Kong into this whatever giant snake, whatever like snake
River
dragon,
monster thing, yeah.
yeah, was dwelling. It's like, okay, that little guy is obviously trying to kill Kong, have the kill Kong, yeah.
But Kong seems to realize that, but still wanted to befriend the little ape. Probably because he's been alone his entire life. Like that was a big thing at Kong Skull Island, was that how the various skull monsters that he and his family were fighting had slowly whittled them down to just him.
Mm,
So him taking on a fatherly role like that was actually like very appropriate.
yeah,
But also just another good example of silent storytelling where you could basically tell what the character wanted and was thinking without having to hear a word.
yeah.
It's then more uninteresting human stuff. And then the movie kind of remembers, oh, right, Godzilla's supposed to be in this thing too. Damn.
Yeah.
We thought we were writing Kong Skull Island too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Godzilla's he goes up to the North Pole to take out this Titan and absorb his energy, and so he spends basically up until the third act. He's just up there chilling out in the North Pole, absorbing this new energy because he's getting ready for some big fight, and they're like,
Right.
oh,
He's
oh, oh.
anticipating a big fight.
Yeah, yeah, and so eventually Kong gets led to the where the other apes are, and they're all being used for slave labor by the who the humans discover is actually the Scar King,
Not the Scar Giver.
Scar
Very
Giver. Excuse
important. No, no,
Scar.
no, no. He's not the Scar Giver because that's the character from Rebel
Oh,
Moon.
Scar. Right. Yeah.
But
God.
no, he's a giant orangutan with a pretty cool looking weapon, which is basically a whip made out of some spine that has a glowing rock at the end of it, which he uses to control what looks like a final boss from Monster Hunter, which is a big reptile that can generate sub-zero temperatures.
Yes, and the monster attacks Kong, and Kong gets frostbite on his arm, and
Yep, barely
he
escapes.
barely escapes. Yeah.
And then the humans, Trapper, the world's greatest veterinarian slash adventurer guy, his brilliant idea is he conveniently their hovercraft had a mode where it could turn into a supportive exoskeleton for Kong's hand.
Yeah, so you basically gave him a Nintendo Power Glove, only it's gold.
Yeah, made him Thanos
Yeah.
without
Yes.
the gems.
Yeah.
Uh, which that's the first decision that I think was made by the toy selling department.
Yes. Yeah. Got to give the kids their own glove thing. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and also, we already had a movie with Godzilla and Kong. How do we make the kids buy another Godzilla and Kong? We'll make them distinctive from the previous movie.
Yes. We'll give Kong a giant glove, and then Godzilla is fuchsia glowing instead of blue.
He goes Super Saiyan Rose,
Yeah.
like Samasu did in Dragon Ball.
Yeah. like Malibu Stacy with a hat.
Basically, yes. And so King Kong and Godzilla have a big fight in Egypt, which isn't technically necessary outside of being one of the better fights in the movie because, like in the previous film, Kong is just completely outmatched.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. When they, when they're in Egypt, and Godzilla's charging at Kong, and Kong's like, "Whoa, oh no, wait a second, what do you think?"
I'm not up here to challenge you, I promise.
Yeah,
And so it turns into a big battle royale in Brazil and with in underground between Godzilla, Kong, General Scar, and the big ice lizard.
yes.
And also Mothra makes a return.
Oh yes,
She
Mothra. Yeah.
she had died fighting King Ghidorah 2 movies ago.
Okay.
So that was supposed to be meaningful. feel it, feel feelings, darn it. But long story short, you know, evil is defeated, good triumphs, and the movie basically goes back to the way it started, including with King Kong, including with Godzilla sleeping like a big kitty in the Roman Colosseum.
Yeah.
Oh, and so there was something about Gia and knockoff Scarlett Johansson uh,
Yeah.
becoming a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure it was meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say the human characters that actually had the most going on were Bernie Hayes and Trapper, just because they butted heads, but eventually came to an understanding.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if it was just those two guys.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how to rate this one, honestly.
Yeah. I I I thought obviously, like we said, the CGI was really good. Was really good. And like we said, they did a very good job of conveying character, motivations and actions and everything without any dialogue. Um, and the fight scenes were really good between the monsters.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's the human characters are what really drag it down, because it's just you really don't feel anything for them. You really don't care.
Which that's hilarious because that's been the case with just about every single one of these movies I've seen. Kong Skull Island was the best with that, which is probably why I rate it as the best of these movies overall.
Mhm.
Because you had basically had Samuel L. Jackson as a guy who had just lost Vietnam, refusing to give up to this stupid ape,
Yeah.
sort of uh, sort of a Captain Ahab type situation.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I guess I got to go back and watch that one.
Yeah, if you're going to go back and watch any of them, it would be that one.
Yeah.
Now, I warn you, it does have Captain Marvel in it, but she's
Oh,
mostly
yeah.
bearable.
Yeah. All right.
But it also has Loki, so it's
Oh, that balances that out.
yeah. But back to this movie, and yeah, it feels weird that Godzilla is a afterthought in a movie where he has top billing, but we calls him how he sees him.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say it's very mid.
Mid is a good word for it. It's just kind of average.
Yeah.
I would say the previous movie was more interesting, just because like both characters were more integrated into it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'll also say that while it is nice for Kong to not be alone anymore, Kong's whole character is that he's like the last of his kind. And so it does make him a bit less special when you have a society of hundreds of these apes that have just been trapped underground.
Mm.
Also, don't expect plot logic from this one,
Yeah.
but as a character study with King Kong and the other apes, as a series of high octane CGI fight scenes, totally serviceable. It's on Max right now. If
Yeah.
you've ever enjoyed a giant monster movie before, you'll probably enjoy this one too.
Yeah.
It's just in a post Godzilla -1 world.
Hmm.
Boy, is this the opposite end of the spectrum from that movie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Uh, yeah. If you ask me to choose between those two, I'm picking Godzilla -1 every time.
I enjoyed this movie as much as I did after having Godzilla -1 recently rewatched to compare it to.
Yeah. Yeah.